Ladies and gentlemen, let's be honest, like 99% gentlemen, we are back. It is time to put our nose to the grindstone. It is a brand new NHL. NHL 22 is here. And this is the start of our first journey. Now, it might be a little bit basic to play with the Seattle Kraken. It's the thing that most people are going to want to do. But let's be honest, with how NHL 21 went for me, losing my custom rosters and really all motivation to do anything, we ended up doing a lot of my Draft to Glory style series, my Nation series, and it's about time that we got back forward to doing a straightforward series. And the Seattle Kraken are a really good team to use even with EA's default rosters because they have some pieces, but we don't really know how good they're going to be, right? And we are going to use the Seattle team that was drafted by Ron Francis and company as opposed to doing the redraft, which you can absolutely do if you choose to do that. But we're going to use the Seattle team and take it from there. I'm going to leave the AHL team the same. Not really too worried. Our logo can be a pineapple. That's perfectly fine. But it makes sense to have this be the type of series that we do. To kick things off, we'll change over some settings here once we actually load into the mode. Eventually, of course, we'll get to early December when roster sharing's out. That'll completely change what we do as well. But for now, let's get cracking, as they say. So franchise mode this year is incredibly similar, of course, except for the 1,000 goddamn pop-ups that you get at the start. It is incredibly similar, as you would suspect, minus, of course, the addition of X Factors and Superstar abilities this year. We will turn off morale meetings. We're going to pretty much keep all the settings the way that I have over the years. Waivers are good. The trade notification are good. We're going to put trade difficulty on hard because I hate myself. That's really the only way to put it. Auto scouting as well. We'll test out the effectiveness of that. We can mess around with injuries to start, and it'll take less than an episode for people to get tired of that and say, for the love of God, turn them off. As per usual, it wouldn't be an NHL without me being like, well, let's just see what happens. I think as well we'll still turn down the injury occurrence to like a 25, and even then that might be a little bit too high. But again, stuff in this particular category typically works. We'll make those type of changes there, and for the most part, we're good to go to actually focus on the team. Now, in terms of the staff, anything like that, we'll leave it as is to kick things off. A quick look at the free agent list, although I don't plan on rating it. Brady Tkachuk is technically there. I do believe he has an RFA, and that could be our first big move right out of the gates, is going after Brady Tkachuk. Tuukka Rask is also there, and that would be another gigantic decision. Now look, when I edit the rosters, Tuukka Rask will be put to the wayside until he officially comes back to Boston. Not going to go after Tuukka because, at the end of the day, we have Philip Grubauer in goal, and it's not really a necessity. There's also two versions of Vienni Vevalainen because EA gonna EA. Defensively, in terms of prospects, there's really nobody. Like Luke Green is probably a guy worth giving a shout to. That's about it. If we were to go after anybody else, Eric Gustafsson, Jason Demers, of course, IRL Sami Vatanen just went back over to Switzerland. Brady Tkachuk's really the guy at this stage that we could look at. And of course, looking at our team as it stands. In goal, it is Grubauer and Driedger, which is great. Perfectly fine with that. Defensively, there's a bit of a soft spot. Now, we do have other guys that do actually fit in terms of an NHL role. Unfortunately, switching to the AHL there, it kind of messes up the camera view. But we could decide out of the defensemen who should be on the team. And then for forwards, let's get out of in the system, shall we? And let's go down here to the likes of Twarynski and Max McCormick. And for the forwards as well, I mean, in terms of who can fit, Marcus Johansson's there, Colin Blackwell, Riley Sheahan. Like, there are options for players that fit the team. We'll drop Alex True. Take a look at Johansson. Again, Blackwell and Sheahan can also fit. So this defense, let's be honest, in terms of those free agents that are out there, I don't know. I don't really know if anybody helps us all that much, right? I mean, Gustafsson would be a slight improvement. Demers would be a slight improvement. And for the forwards as well, I don't really know if anybody helps us out that much. It's just the big question of, do we make a play for Brady Tkachuk? The contract that's being offered there would be a first and a third. Worth it, I'd say. The issue is, in terms of cap space, Ottawa's got some space, I would presume. Yeah, they have all the space in the world. So the only way to successfully take him away from Ottawa is to overpay. So I think that'll be our big decision coming out of this episode. I want to kind of get you a look at everything else that's going on. So the defense, I mean, the top four is set. It really is just aside from that, who fits onto this team with the coaching staff that will maintain through this initial season. So again, we want to bump up Vince Dunn. I agree, like the color of the green and stuff like that needs to change. Alexiak, Larson, these guys are really not good fits whatsoever. We do get a +1 there, but it takes its hit. Honestly, I think that's gonna have to be fine, which is okay. And then Fleury and Carrick do provide a +2. Both are good fits. Both are two-way defensemen. If we look at Suchi, he is a DFD, but he doesn't have an OFD to play off of. Cholowski's also good. I'd obviously rather have Cholowski in over Carrick due to the overall. Still gets the +2 alongside Hayden Fleury. Yeah, I think just Carson Suchi is kind of the man on the outs to kick things off. It's kind of a shame we don't have a natural OFD to go alongside him on that third pair. But defense is looking okay. For the forwards, I mean, obviously it's a bit of a mess. If we can't call up Sheahan and Blackwell at the same time. Unless, I believe, we drop Carson Suchi, but we know he'll be coming back. So Blackwell and Sheahan. Let's see who fits this team the best. And yes, we are going to have to sign some guys for the AHL club as well. Definitely. Our lovely pineapples. So for the forwards, God, where the hell do we start? Fourth line, third line, third line. Most of these guys are third line guys, right? And if we were to prioritize them and we look at the fourth line guys, it even takes out Jared McCann. I think just off of role for the forwards, we got to base this off of overall. Seems to be the way to go. We're not going to be able to fit everybody in. So right out of the gates, like Sheahan and Bastian, they're pretty much done. And that's decided, right? Because the numbers still work out to 10, 11, 12, 13 with Ryan Donato. I think we got our guys. So again, we'll bump up Suchi again. He'll be the healthy scratch. Means we do have some decent players in the AHL. So let's see what we got here. I was going to say, let's make sure Suchi is out of there. Suchi, whatever it may be. Yeah, we'll go with that for the defense to start. I mean, there's no denying the idea of what Brady Tkachuk could add to this team. Donato is definitely better for the bottom six. Morgan Geeky's best for the third line. Marcus Johansson should be a second line guy. Brandon Tanev, definitely a third line guy. No doubt about that. Let's see, in theory, Geeky should also probably, again, be a third line guy. Donskoy, also in that mix. Just trying to see if there's anybody where it's like, okay, they have to be on this particular line. Jaden Schwartz apparently isn't a good fit for the top line. We have two snipers on the top line. We also have two playmakers, and that is it. So in terms of the playmakers, I mean, it's Wenberg and Johansson. Then you got Yarncroke and Eberle. Johansson fits the second line well. Eberle fits the second line well. That's pretty much it. I mean, it doesn't give us this this incredible boost. That's a +1 there. So Ryan Donato or Yanni Gourde on the top line. Obviously, we'll go for Yanni Gourde. And, I mean, we get a decent amount of +1s with this type of setup here. But obviously, Jaden Schwartz on the fourth line just can't happen. Doesn't look like we're going to be able to get that much chemistry out of this team to the point where it's not even really worth trying to get it. At least in my opinion. Man, that really limits our options for what we can do. It really does. If someone can naturally play center, let's try to line that up. Have them here at center and on the right. So all these guys can naturally play center. We'll base it off of face-offs. And Yarncrook's at a 78, Geeky at a 77, 76, 75, a 79 for Yanni Gourde. And I think we have it, right? Wenberg was a 76, as was McCann, Yarncrook, and Geeky. Marcus Johansson's at a 75 as well. Boy, we have limited options here, don't we? We really do. That is what we are discovering. I guess we'll go Johansson, Geeky, and Donato. Honestly, we'll play Geeky on the wing, even though Donato has slightly worse face-offs. Or we could just play Mojo at center. Brady Tkachuk is needed. That's what this is. That's what this is coming down to. Brady Tkachuk is very, very much needed. I think right about there will be the lines that we rock and roll with here. Yarncrook had the slightly better draws. It needs work. It's not horrific, but it's definitely an expansion team, I think is the best way to put it. And quickly, too, again, if anyone's watched me kind of play like a straightforward type of series, you know, I'm not going to sit here for the most part and just be like, okay, let's immediately trade for this guy, this guy, this guy. But Brady Tkachuk provides an interesting one. By the way, your first look at new trade values, medium elites, doesn't seem like they're worth a ton. You know, look at the value of draft picks as well. They definitely rework trade values. So that's a big thing, and I'm very intrigued to see how that affects things. But in terms of like anybody early that's on the block, like Bruins getting rid of LaSalle, of course Jeff Skinner's out there. I still don't hate the idea of going after a Jeff Skinner as a negative value contract. If they're willing to give up draft picks to take on Jeff Skinner, that's a damn good deal for us at this stage for where we are, because we could also really be sellers. Dallas is trying to move on from Klingberg, Suter, Jamie Benn. That's pretty surprising to see the AI take that approach. Of course, Mesnikov, not all that good. Hornqvist, Thornton, Chari, Gudis on the block. Philip Deneau is already on the block in L.A. Spurgeon, Brodin. Wow, Minnesota's going full fire sale, essentially. Montreal not getting rid of anybody big. Ekholm's out there if we were to want to go for it. Supan, I don't think is in negative value because he has 1 year left. And again, the Brady Tkachuk deal where obviously try to get him as an RFA. I think, you know, that first and the third, they'd want a little bit more. Parayko, Krug, and Falk all on the list, as was Brandon Saad for the Blues. I mean, again, you get a look at our options. We're not in the worst spot. Connor McMichael also being dealt. Cole Perfetti's up there as well. So a lot of prospects we could look to acquire, hopefully at some point. Again, we're not going to immediately tear this team down. We do look at our trade values here. And, I mean, you know, you're talking like maybe seconds, mostly third-round picks if we were to tear down a little bit. Evans, by the way. Edgar Evans gets a low elite. Interesting. Not a ton of value here. So with that, we'll keep this first episode relatively short. Just kind of an introduction to like, hey, here's what the team looks like. Here's what the scenario looks like. And the options that we have. And the biggest talking point coming out of this, what happens with Brady Tkachuk? Do we go for him? Or just do we sit back, leave it, and see what happens from there? But we are going to end it relatively short this time out. don't worry. We'll get back to the long episodes, the really heavy episodes in terms of things going on. I will be playing through a lot of this over on twitch.tv/Tuki24, of course, and then sending it over here. So, hey, if you can check it out live, make sure to do so. Drop a follow on that channel if you haven't. Subscribe here if you haven't. Check out everything in the description. Of course, we have the second channel still going on. Everything Madden, FIFA related, that is Tuki24. And then there is the Tuki's Take podcast channel. Of course, you can also find that on Spotify, Google, Apple, and all that fun stuff. A lot of stuff going on here for those of you who haven't been around for a bit, for those of you who might be new, for those of you who have still been here for a long time and haven't gone anywhere. Hey, I thank you guys the most. We'll see what happens. Being very, very basic by being the Seattle Kraken, but hey, it's going to be fun.